I remember years ago when they were starting the Queen Furnace off at Redgar, they came up to Steelworks and interviewed a few of us, John, to see whether they wanted to go down there.
That's right.
I was successful and got offered a job down there, and Janice got offered a job to transfer her from the TRD. And we went down to look at the houses around Gisborough and
Shelton
and,
then Park, yeah.
and
So-
she says, no, I'd want to move down here. I says, why? She says, I'll miss me mum and dad. Lo and behold, you can drive down there now in 20, well, no more than an hour.
Yeah.
But we both got the jobs at the Queen Heart.
But as Gary said, nobody used to move out.
No, and it's
Nobody,
because we
then
didn't
you went to
relax.
Wiltley Bay was probably the farthest you went. Nobody went to out of the area. I mean, I always remember you're on about the little characters. We used to go away on customer complaints, and nobody had a car, but you got good mileage. So as soon as you got sorted out, passed your test, you wanted to take your car to Birmingham. And I mean, Birmingham was the other side of the world to us. And a certain person bought a new car, and we had to pick a lad up in Chester Street. 4 o'clock in the morning, get to Birmingham for starting time. Never been anywhere in this car. And we drove from Chester Street down towards Durham, and after 2 miles, this lad said to the driver, you can get out off the hard shoulder now. Now, you know, you never drove anywhere. You didn't need a car in concert. You walked to work, and the first trip away was to Birmingham. You never been on the motorway, and you drove from Chester Street halfway to Durham in the hard shoulder. Luckily, at 4 o'clock in the morning, there was no other cars on the road. But that was it. To go to Birmingham in them days, or even to Teesside when we used to go, 50 mile driving to Teesside. But as Joe says now, you up and down the motorway in 45 minutes.
It's a small world now, isn't
And
it?
it is compared to everybody used to stay in concert. You know, that was it. Everybody, you didn't need transport.
Community.
Yeah, but you didn't need because you had everything there. You had your social life, you had your work life. You didn't need a car.
No.
So even when you were able to drive a car, a lot of young people didn't have cars.
Somebody said the other day about cars that never bought one from concert because it was rotten within 6 months. Was that a myth?
Well, that was British Ireland.
It's true.
Made out of steel, probably.
So it was doing that with a car. What the hell was it doing to people's bodies?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean it's the same as any industry. Deafness in shipyards, chest problems in mines. I mean, you used to go into tanks when I was repairing ships, and you were inside of a tank, and they were riveting at the other side, or chipping old paint off.
That's right.
You never had any defender on it.
That's one of my first jobs in the shipyard, and I was, used to do the wages for the tank cleaners and riveters, and I used to have to go to their little cabins throughout the yard and wrapping themselves in rags and then going down into a tank, and coming back with a bucket of rubbish from the bottom, and they were like working with no health and safety. I remember one guy says, "Don't touch that, lad." I was electrocuted, because there's a short on it. So it was like his hands were keep jumping.
But this even happened in the 90s.
I'll give you funny. You know about funny tales. I was working at the company this day, and we used to do gas tests. So we used to go around with the Drager, and we used to do the old gas tests. A little tube on that used to go in colour. Anyway, we went to this cabin one day, and it was absolutely full of smoke. This bloke was smoking his head off, and he was always falling asleep. So we went in this day, and we took the Drager in with us. And I'm not kidding you, it went right over the top. And it was just carbon monoxide, and it was just with smoking, and it had no exits in, and it was just one blanket of smoke, and he was always dropping off.
But you used to have coke burners, homemade coke burners, with a piece of pipe, and you fed them from the inside of the cabin. And there was no windows in, was there? There was no ventilation. There was a door, and it'd be half the size of this room. 20 people getting the baits, especially in the bait mill, and you threw the coke in from the inside. So how much carbon monoxide was in there?
I remember when you were 6 till 2, and I used to get the bus at Black Hill from the Bridge Hill. And by the time I got to Black Hill, the bus was full of smoke because all the old men were smoking, and the bus was covered in smoke. You were smoking about 20 fags before you got into work.
So you blamed the company for throat cancer. But when you're on about different stories and characters when you started, and how generations, how we were young when we went there, and I said we went from a farm to Templetown, and the Templetown at the time, 1963, there was still women who worked there during the war, when the menfolk was away, who loaded the furnaces. They were manual labourers. And these were women. Terrified people. And we, as initiation, used to get sent over to the fire brick kilns to sample bricks, so bring back a test to make sure they've been fired properly. But unknown to us as 16-year-old naive Jack the lads, Doug being the other one, we were sent out on this mission one day with a 4-wheeled trolley, sample every kiln. But there'd been a phone call made to the kilns, hadn't there? These 2 lads are coming over. We got into the kiln, they had 2 doors, beehive kennels inside. We got in, we were pulling the odd brick out, turned round, and there's 2 or 3 women standing broadside across these entrances, ready to debag Dougie, because he was the boy. And we had to fight them off. Now, we were 16-year-old, these were rough 50, 60-year-old women, headscarves on, big overalls on, right? Bibs and braces. And we actually jumped onto the 4-wheel trolley, Dougie on the front, me pushing, and we crashed it. And of course, when we caught ourselves up, the women were chasing us. It was like Benny Hill. And of course, we went back to the lab, and there's all the senior staff and the drone officers and everything, all looking out the window, killing themselves, you know. But that taught you not to take the mickey out of women and the officers, you know. But and that was it. You hit these old generations; they'd been there years, and it used to be frightening. And I mean, you wouldn't get away with that now, would you? I mean, you know. But I mean, they literally had Dougie on the bottom.
We used to have a character. Dennis used to come in, and I says the Davy. I said to Davy Pickersgill this day, do you know the Queen can't use that finger? He says, why? I says, because it's mine. So he heed and he hawed and he laughed. And then our boss came in and he says to the boss, Dennis, do you know the Queen can't use that finger? He says, why not, David? He says, because it's Joe Tonus.
What part of Ireland did it come from? There was a, I remember when I first started there was a lad, he was telling us about the war. He says, like you said, you know, they took a lot of women on, and they also took people with, say, minor disabilities. You know, like, I don't know, like 1 arm or 1 leg or something like that. And he says the ruddy air raid went, and he says, I was dying to go to the loo. He says, well, the urinal was at the end of this corridor, and the cubicles were down the side. And he says, it was black, and he says, I'm going along the wall like this, and all of a sudden, wall up straight over. Bang, on the floor. He says, oh, that. And he says, when the raid was over, he says, there's a guy sitting there with a wooden leg on the toilet, and he fell over it.
We used to go to exhibitions, and you were told, you know, you'll go to Birmingham exhibition, even though you were just early 20, and you had to make a decision to buy or sell, or buy stuff. And I used to go to Birmingham, and they used to kick up with costs, and they set us down in a chauffeur-driven car. And I mean, I was just in my early 20s, and you were chauffeur-driven to Birmingham in a big black limousine. We were talking about the chauffeur who lives locally, with all his gear on, went to the exhibition, and they were giving, you know, having drinks, and they were saying, oh, how are you getting home? You're not driving? No, you don't drink too much, you're going back on the train. I said, no, the chauffeur's coming for us. And these people are looking, chauffeur, take you back to the concert. Thought it was a wind-up. And of course, as the exhibition wound up, I'm sitting on the Kodak stand, enjoying the refreshments, and in walks Neil, the chauffeur, his cap on, his gloves on, his uniform on. Well, are you ready to go home now? And the blokes at the exhibition went, chauffeur all the way back to the concert. I mean, they couldn't get their heads round that I'd been chauffeur-driven all the way to Birmingham. He'd waited for us and brought us all the way back, where everybody else was travelling by train or had to make their own way there. But that's the way the company used to treat you. If they wanted you there, they would get you there, you know, one way or the other. And I used to get, we used to go to Jarrah Plate Mill to do ultrasonics. The chauffeur used to take us. When the chauffeur-driven car.
Frankie.
Oh, Neil.
Was
yeah. And he had all, he used to carry out the sonic sets with his gear on, his gloves on into Jarrah Mill. No, I say.
I think it would be true to say then that I think everybody now misses the company for one reason. You cannot get your government jobs done, or we call govy jobs.
I was good at that.
Fire
Everybody
grades.
used to come to me, can you make us this, can you
Fire grades.
Can you make us that?
There's no fires now, so they wouldn't have to make fire grates.
Exactly, that's why I made some pokers and lights.
I mean, you could bring 2 bits of fire grate into the foundry, burnt out, completely burnt out the fire grates, and they would make a mould and cast you a fire grate that fitted into your fireplace.
Last
From a,
lifetime, I know.
wouldn't it?
Yeah.